What's up, guys? This is new crazy Reddit story.
Representative Khanna, on the House floor, just called Trump's tariffs the most self-destructive, wealth-destroying policy any administration has undertaken in modern American history. What do you think? Khanna just went nuclear on Trump's tariffs. I was there. So I was in D.C. today visiting my sister, who interns for a House representative. I somehow managed to score a seat in the House gallery. Honestly, just expected a bunch of suits arguing over obscure amendments, not a front row seat to political history. But then, out of nowhere, Khanna absolutely torched Trump's tariffs in a speech that had everyone in the chamber sitting straight up like someone had just slapped them across the face. You ever see one of those speeches where you can feel that it's going to be clipped and replayed a million times? Yeah, it was that kind of moment. Let me set the scene. The House was having this dry debate about some supply chain resolution. Nothing that would make headlines. Just your usual back and forth about sourcing semiconductors or whatever. But then the floor recognized Representative Khanna, and he didn't just stick to the resolution. He pivoted, and man, did he go off script. He starts with, "Madam Speaker, we talk about building resilient supply chains. Let me tell you what destroys them. What shatters manufacturing confidence, inflates costs for working families, and strips small businesses of competitive leverage. Tariffs." Okay, standard anti-tariff line, I thought. But then he raises his voice and says, President Trump's tariffs were not just economically reckless. They were, in my view, the most self-destructive, wealth-destroying policy any administration has undertaken in modern American history. You could feel the temperature in the room drop. A couple Republicans audibly scoffed. One even stood up like he was about to challenge him to a duel or something. But Khanna wasn't done. He leaned into the mic, and you could hear the fire building. We handed China a gift wrapped in red, white, and blue. While we were slapping 25% tariffs on inputs our manufacturers desperately needed, steel, aluminum, machinery, Beijing was laughing all the way to the bank. Farmers were forced onto welfare checks because their export markets vanished. Small businesses couldn't keep up with costs. And what did we get? Bankruptcies, job losses, and no meaningful change in China's behavior. At this point, I swear I saw a couple aides in the gallery texting furiously. Probably some comms teams freaking out about how this would play on Twitter. He didn't just attack the policy. He dissected it. He pulled out actual numbers. The Peterson Institute found that the tariffs cost American consumers an estimated $57 billion annually. He referenced a study that said for every one steel job saved, 16 downstream jobs were lost due to higher costs. Then he looked straight into the camera, yeah, the one that streams CSBN, and said, "This wasn't America first. This was America undermined. And it's time we stop pretending that economic nationalism is patriotism. It's economic malpractice, and our constituents paid the price." Like damn. Someone from the GOP side tried to interrupt with a procedural objection, claiming inflammatory language, but Khanna held the floor. The speaker overruled it, saying he was within bounds, and he finished with, "We can't undo every mistake of the last administration, but we can learn from them. And the next time someone tries to sell you tariffs as a solution, ask who profits and who pays. Because it won't be them. It'll be you." Mic drop. After he rapped, the room didn't erupt or anything. This isn't the British Parliament, but you could feel this weird tension in the air. Like something real just happened. Like someone had said the quiet part out loud, with receipts. Anyway, within 10 minutes, the clip started blowing up on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it now. I saw the headline, "Khanna eviscerates Trump tariffs," trending before I even left the gallery. So yeah, I witnessed it live. And regardless of where you stand politically, it was a hell of a moment. Not just a hot take, but a data-driven, historically contextualized teardown of a major policy pillar from the Trump era. Expect to see this speech in campaign ads, econ textbooks, and probably a few presidential debates. We'll update if anything else happens. DC might be full of suits and lobbyists, but every now and then, something cuts through the noise. As expected, Khanna's speech didn't just fizzle out after the House session ended. No, this thing went viral. I saw the clip on every platform I follow within hours. It started on Twitter, then exploded on Reddit, YouTube, and even made its way to CNN by the evening. It was almost like people had been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. But what was really interesting was the immediate aftermath. When I left the Capitol building, I bumped into one of my sister's colleagues, a junior aide for a Republican rep. She's pretty cool, and we've had some good political discussions in the past, so I asked her about the speech. Her reaction was, well, telling. She said, "That was not what I expected." She told me that, behind the scenes, Republicans had already started scrambling. It's like Khanna had punched them in the gut without even breaking a sweat. I guess, even though they were all pretty quick to defend the tariffs during the Trump administration, now that it was over, many of them were starting to reassess their stance quietly, especially after the clear economic fallout in rural areas and the manufacturing sector. A couple of them even slipped her text messages about how Khanna wasn't wrong, but damn, he really laid it on thick. But here's the kicker. The Republicans who were more in favor of trade war policies, like those who really believe in tariffs as a tool to protect U.S. interests, didn't seem too keen on responding. They'd been loud when Trump was in office, but now it was like they were hiding under their desks, hoping the storm would pass. A few tried to minimize the damage, claiming that it was an oversimplification or that Khanna was just trying to score political points, but no one took that seriously. Not when their own voters were hit hard by rising prices, layoffs, and the fallout from the trade war. On the flip side, though, you could feel the energy on the Democratic side of things. Khanna's remarks gave progressives like me a shot of adrenaline. It was like someone had finally called out the emperor for wearing no clothes. After the speech, I checked out some of the social media reaction, and there was this common thread. On Reddit, there was a whole thread in r/politics about how Khanna's words echoed sentiments of trade experts who had been warning about the unintended consequences of tariffs for years. But what stood out even more was the level of clarity he brought to the issue. This wasn't some partisan rant. This was a deeply researched, fact-backed, pointed critique of a policy that hurt regular people. One user wrote, "Khanna just made me think about the middle-class families I know in Ohio. Their jobs are getting outsourced, their costs are going up, and all for what? Tariffs. This is the reality no one talks about when they cheer for America first." Meanwhile, on the GOP side of X, Twitter, some tried to defend the tariffs. A few high-profile figures from the Trump administration jumped in, claiming that the tariffs were a necessary measure to combat China's unfair trade practices. But it felt hollow. They didn't have much to counter with beyond, "We had to do something, and China still cheats." I honestly thought the best responses were from economists who didn't pick a side, but just laid it all out, like this one. The tariffs hurt American consumers and industries. They caused inflation, disrupted supply chains, and harmed our international relationships. The fact is, protectionism doesn't create long-term stability. It creates a bubble, and when it pops, regular people are the ones left holding the bag. For a moment, it was like the entire economic discourse around Trump's tariffs was finally being unpacked in the open. It was like one of those debates we should have had back in 2018, but didn't because everything got overshadowed by the noise of Twitter wars, media cycles, and all the distractions of the Trump presidency. But as much as I appreciated the debate, I also couldn't help but wonder, was this just a moment in time? Will anyone actually do anything to reverse the damage caused by the tariffs? That's when the conversation about Khanna's speech started to shift. Some were even asking whether it would have any political consequences down the line. I mean, what if this was Khanna positioning himself as a key figure in the future of the Democratic Party? His sharp critique of the tariffs was a clear challenge to Biden's more moderate policies, especially if you consider how Democrats have largely avoided talking about the Trump-era tariffs as a whole. This could be his way of staking out ground on trade policy, standing apart from those who want to preserve the status quo. Some political commentators said this could be a defining moment for him if he decides to run for higher office. Others, though, were more skeptical. They argued that it's hard for a congressman to get national traction on policy issues, especially one as niche as trade tariffs, unless you have the backing of big donors, major PACs, or a national crisis. Still, it's hard not to see the ripple effect this speech could have on future debates around U.S. trade policy. After all, the tariffs weren't just about China. They were about how the U.S. saw itself in the world economy. And now, after seeing Khanna eviscerated on the House floor, I can't help but wonder if this might be the beginning of a larger, more meaningful shift in how we approach trade wars, tariffs, and global relationships. By the time the night ended, Khanna's speech was still making waves. The media had picked it up, political strategists were weighing in, and even the average person was starting to ask questions. Was Khanna right? Was this the final reckoning for Trump's policies? I guess we'll see. But for now, all I know is that today was a damn good day for anyone who thinks facts, research, and economic common sense still matter in politics.